Labadian, good afternoon. My name is Aivars Alt from Estonia. Thank you for the invitation to this conference. This is actually third time to be here in Lithuania involved with that kind of event, and I'll give you a short update what has happened in Estonia previous year and a small look back. This is the traditional slide of mine, and seems that the list is or the page is full already, and I don't know, should I have to start deleting or highlight those important dates for Estonia. Now we can say that Estonian journey probably started as it started all over the world in the same time. It means that somewhere in mid-2000 there was first initiatives, and now it turns out they actually used the first BIM elements in their projects, but probably none of those were aware what they are actually doing back then. But I think or have to say that our blessing is that we have so good neighbors, and especially we have quite strong influence from north of Estonia, and therefore we have quite many support from Finland, starting from those first lecturing and continuing with different guidelines what Finland so far has produced. I believe that almost all those which have made concerning BIM has more or less translation into Estonia, and we have been arguing should those documentations and guidelines should be somehow adopted to our cultural background, but it seems based on the practice that there is no need for that, because our cultural background is that similar concerning BIM activities. Probably the biggest driver in Estonia in the field is a state-owned real estate company called Kinnisvara. Also further you will see in my slides examples from their portfolio also. So 2010 was the first BIM public procurement. It was Narva Police and Fire Department house. What is funny and in the same time quite serious fact that back then, 2010, we didn't believe that we could demand anything in construction phase, 2010, when was announced this procurement. But turned out when it was a real process, I mean construction, already by that time there was already capability from construction contractor side to use the models in site. So it means that how fast actually is going to development in this BIM field and in technology as well. I believe that the quite important factor just before the first BIM public procurement was first guidelines based on Finnish COBIM, and also quite important was the translation of COBIM into Estonian 2013. If we are looking now in the procurement documentations, I believe that almost every document you can find some hints or references to COBIM. I would say that at the moment this is a little bit problematic situation also, because nowadays I believe that it's not enough anymore if you say that you have to base on your work on COBIM. It's just not enough. You must be much more specific, and I will give you some more examples afterwards, and then I can explain it a little bit longer. Going back to that time, 2013, Estonian real estate company started to order different research and studies from university concerning BIM, and we have been going through parametric elements, information classification, and also we have created a BIM execution plan template, originally called Project Manager Handbook in Estonia, but as a worldwide scale, the BIM execution plan would be appropriate for that. Last year was quite important because we can say that there was first public and widely known fact that contractor really started to use these models on the site, and the project was Estonian National Museum, which is under construction at the moment, will be opened this year, I think. And the positive was that even subcontractors were quite, how to say, they were so into that model that one day head contractor discovered that it was a little bit complicated to print out or to deliver that information what the subcontractors really needed. It means that the created model was really practical one, and I remember the story that two of our students was sent to the site as technicians. First 2 weeks they just sit there, they had nothing to do, and one moment they having lines behind the drawers because they couldn't create as much screenshots as it was needed. But as I said, it was a little bit problematic because subcontractors one moment wanted absolutely everything, and it was nonsense because we had to print out everything. But still, it's a good example to show and to prove that even some subcontracting level it's necessary. This year we have been formed Estonian Standardization Committee, and we have created one ISO DS, or we have taken over one ISO DS 12911, which is a framework for BIM guidelines, and ongoing is at the moment BIM terms. See, we have quite long history by now, and now we decided to create our own BIM terms. But I think that we have the good basis at the moment. And still we have for this year a few studies we are working on. One of them is to BIM execution plan templates for construction. To be simple in my words, I have to say it's just taking the building information models to the site. And also we are working on requirements for as-built documentation, for as-built data, looking from the client side. And the last bullet here is the rise of activity of Estonian companies, which is quite positive that construction companies are really ordering trainings how to utilize this data in a quite simple way, but still they are working already with the models, and now is the question at what is else inside the models besides the geometry. This is the famous UK wedge, and I believe in the current stage it's quite good guidelines, because I have pasted here a wedge where you can also see different standards, guide, classifications and deliveries, which should be parallel with different BIM levels. And at the moment, this is something which we keep in mind while working on different studies and developments. When we should put Estonia somewhere on that wedge, I believe that we could place it somewhere entering the level 2. And I believe that this is the general situation in the world actually, because we have combined 2D and 3D, and if you look inside the models and model quality, there is a little bit lack of information still, I believe, that we cannot be based on the models so much. Talking about projects which have, I believe I have shown those before from portfolio of Riigi Kinnisvara. We initiated this project, or Riigi Kinnisvara initiated this project, I think 4 years ago by now. And what we can conclude at the moment, we try to create facility models for existing buildings based on the laser scans, and it raised in that moment a bunch of questions, starting from technical parts. Then we had to divide the new responsibilities in a process, which is still quite crucial factors, because to making the decisions about the locations or techniques, what are used in a process, it has to be made by the professional who is actually working on the information. For a simple example is that if we are used that the surveying specialist is taking some measurements and giving us flat plans, it's some kind of simplification of any geometry. And if the designer starting working, they discover that something isn't missing, and actually the house doesn't look like it should be. In the same time, the amount of data is a huge, as Rob said before, the big data is coming. I'm not talking about the number of point cloud dots, but we have been asking very strange question if the designer received point cloud with, I don't know, 27 million points, and they asked that should we connect all those dots somehow. So there's many practices which came out of this, and I believe that this kind of service is now in a quite good level in Estonia, and the modeling of the starting position as well. And as I said, there was an idea to develop facility models which bring us to the next big issue, that what is exactly the information needed out of the model when we talk about facility purposes. And we were quite brave men. We thought that we will start from we take this building as an example, and then we reduce down the goal. And as you see, the last here, or the lowest picture here, we were struggling on door, what should be presented as a general. And this lead to the need for requirements which are presented by facility owners, and this is actually the research we are doing at the moment. Probably the results will be next year, the preliminary results, but yes, 4 years ago we thought that we are that smart and can figure it out just like that. Also, those are models from the first public procurement I mentioned, and where we couldn't believe that construction companies may be smart enough and clever enough that they can use models and modeling in their working process, but it turned out that that's possible. Of course, this first project was a nightmare when we are going back, starting from the techniques which were used, and also the actual collaboration in the process. We cannot say that there was almost any when you talk about design parties. But the good feedback is given by the clients that the logistics is very good. This is a very one and the biggest win in this project, I believe. And also we were working with students on that project, and were testing different softwares concerning construction management. Here is one more example. This is a new building which is planned, and you see there in the middle is an old Ministry of Finances we don't have that building anymore, and there is a new development. And actually the design has also changed completely. But this also leads to one very important factor, which is almost isn't involved with BIM technology, but this is the knowledge about big procurement processes and let's say how to design the price of future building actually. If you have some targets and how to hit the target price. Actually, the work process and the design was finished and it was quite detailed, but now it was started all over again, starting from scratch, because after it was finished, it turned out that it didn't fit to the budget, actually. It's quite sad. But this is a side effect which should be calculated also, and as I said, this isn't something when we can say that if we had 3D models, you see we have 3D models, but now there is also needed the knowledge involved, different areas which are supporting the project itself. Here is one ongoing project at the moment. This is Estonian Art Academy. It's just a screenshot of the MEP systems, but I have to say that this project is also quite a crucial factor, because the Riigi Kinnisvara, I believe that now there is a knowledge that actually we must know how to evaluate the outcome of the project. As Tommy mentioned here before, it's important to guide the clients also how to order BIM. What is that what I'm going to order? Is it just the 3D CAD, or is it really serious BIM information? Okay, the presentation here today, I believe those were quite outstanding, and if I'm people from the street, just a client, it may be a little bit confusing. There is a huge bunch of info what I have to consider, and also I should be quite clever in that process to, let's say, to handle the process itself, because this building here is quite big, and now if there is a question at what should be checked actually, is it just a simple collision checking, or is there anything else which need to be checked? And there's a list of questions which should be answered, and the shortest answer should be that the client should have some kind of guides how to order BIM, dependent on the type of the building or facility they are ordering at the moment. Small list of the projects what are on the way at the moment. I have to say that all those projects are here from the portfolio of Riigi Kinnisvara, but in the same time we have a private-owned company who are quite actively dealing with BIM. And when I talk about contractors, mainly I'm talking about construction companies who are private-owned. So I could say that the initiatives which have started by Riigi Kinnisvara is very well spread around in our country. There is one more slide about challenges. There's a small list. I believe that still we are struggling with old habits. It means that almost in every step we are comparing how it used to be, and we are stuck in those. Mainly I'm talking about old techniques, how something drawn down, and also different forms for collaboration. One more important factor I forgot before, but I need to say that we have now the requirements for design, but since contractors are now active, it seems that we should revise all those documents, because now the contractors really getting into and starting to ask questions and are adopting actually those models into the process. Because we have to be fair that the models created for design purposes may not be suitable for contracting and for building. The second quality is that the process itself is evolutionary. It means that we haven't been at the end of the process. It means we haven't, I believe we haven't seriously used the facility data, and we do not have the knowledge. What is the data, I mean amount of the data, the quality of the data, how should it look like, and I have said here that no one has seen the end of the rainbow yet. And I think that the case is quite the same all over the world, because when we talk about facility management models, then we have to ask what are we talking actually about. Still, I believe this is a positive sign that the lack of guide materials, the more we know, the less we know actually, and we found out that we should specify and standardize more processes. I put here also the pragmatic mind of Estonians. This maybe is connected also with these old habits, but Estonians in that sense are quite pragmatic, and they don't use anything before they find out that it's really working. And I believe that this is something which breaking down the progress. From now on, it started from the contractor initiative. We found serious lack of definition of LOD. And as I heard here today, this is quite common also. And also we are still looking and trying to figure out the suitable classification system for Estonia. We are on the way. We are, of course, we are looking what's happening all around the world, and we don't have the clear answer yet. And one thing which is funny, that once you print something on a paper, it turns old, and I believe that all those materials created already need some kind of update based on the practice we have now. So that was all by my side. Thank you.